Hi guys, if you're just joining. Hi guys, if you're just joining. I meant to go live earlier today, but I didn't have a chance to. Um, but I thought I would hop on here and answer some LSAT questions. So feel free to let me know in the chat if you're studying for the LSAT right now. Hi Alexia. Is it true that January LSAT is gonna be a lot harder? Um, no. There's no way that anyone can know. So I would say any rumors you hear about like the difficulty of a certain test date, um, mostly just meant to freak you out. Um, it really depends on the test pool, but when I say that, I mean like how many people are taking the test. But even that doesn't impact your score that much either. So I wouldn't worry about that. I've been doing I took the LSAT in 2020, and I've always heard like every single test date. I'm not kidding. My students will be always say, "I heard this one was really, really hard," and that's for 5 years. Like every single test date. So I think it's super normal to get in your head about that. But no, I'm gonna go ahead and say, Lexia, I think that's not true. I think that's a rumor. But that's a good question, though. You're the first one to ask that. Is that something that you've heard other places, Alexia? And feel free to ask me any LSAT questions you have in the chat. And if you have any questions about this example that I put up on the screen, um, because this is actually like I think one of the scenarios that my students have struggle with the most that they see on the LSAT, cause and effect, and how to weaken and strengthen. So I thought I would put a little tip up there. Um, Alexia, okay, I've been PTing in the 165, 168 range, so I'm just worried. No, you don't need to be worried about that, Alexia. The the LSAT makers, they know they can't screw anybody over and like give it an extra hard test in January. Like all of these people are going to become lawyers, right? I don't They're not going to stand for like a super hard test date. So don't let yourself worry about that because they do a pretty good job of making it like standardized across all tests. So yeah, don't get it in too bad in your head with that. I I'm guessing you're taking it on Saturday or this weekend, and definitely let me know if anyone else is taking the July. I wish it was July. The January exam. Um, oh, thank you guys for the coins and the likes already. Oh yeah, make sure you send me a heart me. I just set up a Discord and I really want people to join the fan club so that we can like you can ask me questions in the Discord and you guys can talk to each other. And there's like voice channel so I could just like drop in, which is easier than live. So if you want access to the Discord, make sure you I don't know the right directions to give because I'm 33, so I'm a little old. But if you know how to join the fan club, you should do that. Aileen, you're taking June. That's really good that you're already starting to think about like LSAT stuff and even here like listening to some random person talking about the LSAT. I really like the LSAT, but did not like studying for it. So if you are studying and you're feeling like it's very hard or you're feeling frustrated, um, just know that like every lawyer like knows that this is really, really, really hard. Like if you tell a lawyer, "Oh, I'm studying for the LSAT right now," they'll instantly give you like sympathetic eyes and be like, "I'm so sorry. I remember how difficult that was." So just know that like this is one of the hardest parts of your career. Um, Even like the bar, like the like I only have one semester left, which is crazy. I was way more worried about the LSAT than I am about the bar. Way more worried about the LSAT. Um, Yeah, and Alexia, sounds like the fact that you know that where you've been scoring, like you've been scoring in a range, that's really, really good. And if you're noticing that, like, if you're feeling off in the days coming up to your test, just know that's normal too. Because a lot of my students will start to see, like, start to feel stressed out and think their score is going down or they're getting worse closer to their test date. But it's almost always, well, it always is just like nerves. So as the date gets closer, it is normal for like nerves and stress to get into your head and mess with you. Hi Bonnie. Oh, and thank you, Johanna, for the rose. I'm taking June and August probably. I just started practicing yesterday. You took 3 diagnostics so far. Bonnie, that's awesome. You must, that's crazy to take 3 diagnostics because that means you have like really good mental endurance and good focus. So you're like already off to the races. Um, I studied from March to August. And I studied during original COVID, so there wasn't a whole lot going on, which made it a lot easier. Um, so if you're studying while you're in school or you have any type of life at all, just know like it is really difficult if it feels hard. I feel so bad for my students who are finishing up undergrad or like working full time and studying because the LSAT is hard and then like messes with you mentally and kind of emotionally. They don't tell you that. You think it's just going to be like studying for a test, but you don't really realize how hard it's going to be. So just know if it's hard, it's supposed to be hard. And if you're just starting out, don't let this scare you because it's all good. um, Hi, Rogue Gentleman. Taking the LSAT next month and doing a prep course in a week. It's super nervous. Well, that's really great. You're doing a prep course. And um, oh, you're taking the February one. That's great. Is this your first time taking it, Rogue Gentleman? Um, because my students, the first time is always really rough, but the second time they always feel better. It's your second time. Okay. Do you feel better than the first time you took it? Um, I feel like I would say most of my students feel better the second time, just because the first time is a lot of nerves. Um, Hi, user 833, full-time poli-sci student, full-time litigation paralegal. Oh my gosh, you are an angel. Or you are well, angels. Yeah, you are a miracle worker, being a paralegal. I worked. I'm very lucky. I already have my job after graduation. I'll be working at a firm in New York City, and I worked there this past summer. And the paralegals were so helpful and so nice, and like everyone was like, "Do not f with the paralegals. Like you need them to be your best friends." And if you're paralegal, you're gonna actually know way more than law students, like way more than one else. I had 3 friends who were paralegals in law school. I mean, of course, there was stuff they were learning, but they still knew way more than we did, especially with writing and like looking up cases. So that's really awesome. Um, Rogue, you're feeling kind of the same, but not as bad as the first time. Yeah, that's a really good sign too. Did you do a different prep course the second time? Hi, Roberta. Um, I actually really liked law school. That doesn't mean that it was easy. And um, there are definitely tears and swear words and tears in front of professors. But I really liked it. I really liked my law school. I definitely think probably the law school you choose matters. So getting to know like the people in the admissions office, I think is a really good idea. Um, and I think also one thing to know about law school is that like you can do it. Anyone can do it. No, well, that's not true. It's not. Well, anyone can do it, but the key is working hard and admitting when you make mistakes. If you don't want to work hard and you hate admitting mistakes, law school is going to be really miserable. But if you can, when I say admit mistakes, that just means like recognizing when you don't know something and you need to study harder. because the only person who's going to know is you. So you have to keep yourself accountable. If you can do those two things, then I think law school is like generally enjoyable. The first year is the hardest, the very, very hardest. The second year is the busiest. And then I'm in my third year and we call it 3L, but we call it 3LOL because by now we kind of feel like we know what we're doing. So it's like the last year of law school feels like easy and kind of like you're coasting. So it gets easier as you go. Hi 833, do you do one-on-one tutoring? Yes and no. So DM me. I don't have a ton of time for tutoring right now, but I'm on winter break. So I do, right? So I take that back. Right now I do have some time because I'm on winter break. Maybe I'll have time over the semester, but I'm trying to figure out other ways to do tutoring too. So just DM me, and just let me know like what you might be interested in, if you are interested. I really, really like tutoring, but I just don't have as much time for it anymore. Do you think you can have a part-time job and do law school at the same time? Yeah, definitely. I know they discourage it. And I mean, I said, yeah, definitely, very optimistically. So I did LSAT tutoring basically all throughout law school. Um, was it hard sometimes? Yes, but it was doable. Um, my second year, I didn't tutor most of my second year because I was just so busy. Um, so my answer, Roberta, is yes. I 100% think you can. If you're, and I say that if you're good at managing your time, you definitely can. Now I know a lot of people like who, like one of my friends, she was working, like I had friends who like work as interns or, not, or just like as externs, I guess, but they get paid, um, all throughout law school too. So yeah, you can definitely work and be in law school at the same time. Um, you you're not as busy with classes as you think you might be. In your first year, a lot of your time, your first year is reading, um, like and just like figuring out how to study and like doing clubs and networking and things and going to events. But you do have like a kind of it feels weird. You have less structure than you would think in your first year. Even though they do tell you like what classes to take, but it's still pretty self-driven. And in law school, the only grade in your first year, except for legal writing, is your final exam. So like your whole semester, no one's like checking in on you. You don't have assignments. You have to keep up with the work. Like it'll really suck if you get behind. But that's the other weird thing about law school is that your whole grade is your final exam. So that's another reason why it's definitely possible to do, have a job. Um, you're scheduled for June and plan to get a tutor around April. Um, just DM me 833. Whenever, either now or whenever you're looking for a tutor. And we'll see if we could work something out. Yeah, I keep throwing this out here because I'm trying to figure out, I really like doing test reviews. Um, and I really like, I've been having people come up and answering their questions. So, oh, and that's why I have the fan club goal up. So I just set up a Discord. Make sure you send a heart me so you can join the fan club. And that way you can join the Discord and then you can like post and talk to each other and I'll answer questions. And I'm gonna start doing super fan only lives where like you can where we know exactly what questions you're gonna go over, and so you can have the test pulled up because I can't show the questions because they're copyrighted, but you can have Law Hub pulled up and we'll go through the section. I've been doing that and it's been going really well, but it's hard to do on a random live because like people are just scrolling through. But anyway, all of that said, please like if this is helpful, make sure you're followed, and send a heart me so you can get access to Discord, and then you know when I do like fan club lives. Roberta, do you think it's too late to apply for 2026 fall? Do I think it's too late? No. No, I don't think it's too late. Is it ideal? No, but you're still okay. I mean, I always tell my students like you want to get your applications in before Christmas. Um, that's like the latest I tell my students. This isn't that much later after. But it will get harder as time goes on. So yeah, I don't think it's too late, but I also think if you aren't if you do apply and you don't get the results you want, I think it's late enough that it's worth maybe trying again the next cycle. Because around this late, it's honestly pretty hit or miss. Whether students get, it just depends also where you're applying to. That's also a big part of it. The higher ranked schools, well, yeah, it just depends which schools you're applying to. Yeah, and if you have your application but you haven't taken the LSAT, they won't even look at your application until you take the LSAT. So that's something to think about too. You're welcome, Roberta. Yeah, I like help with admissions questions all the time. I actually worked in admissions between my first and second year of law school at my law school. So if you guys have admissions questions, you can feel free to let me know. And let me know if you have any questions about this example that I put up on the screen. Cause and effect, causal relationships tend to be really tricky with students. And so I wanted to just put up an example of how you can weaken, and this is how the LSAT typically does it. When you get cause and effect, a lot of times the way you can weaken it is by introducing another cause or another possible cause. And then a way you can strengthen it is by ruling out other possible causes. And once you realize that, I think you notice it on the LSAT. But if you don't notice those two patterns, these answer choices, or like these sample answer choices, are going to feel really random because you're going to be like, this is new information. How would I have thought of that? But if you recognize that this is cause and effect, then you know that you're looking for anything that could be another cause or anything that you could rule out as another cause. So I definitely think looking over your flaws helps with weaken and strengthen questions. So if you're struggling with weaken and strengthen questions, go back and review your flaws, because those are the things that the flaws will tell you how the LSAT strengthens and weakens arguments, if that makes sense. And please like and share if this is helpful. And let me know if you are applying to law school or thinking about it or taking the LSAT. The LSAT, I think it's a super learnable test, but it's a really frustrating test. So if you're feeling frustrated with it, just know that's super, super normal. I have a friend who she's very, very smart. She's like a genius. Like, I mean that, like when she was a little kid, like from kindergarten to high school, they followed her around and like in a research study, and she tried to take the LSAT, wasn't that happy with her score, started studying and like gave up 2 weeks in and was just like, this is so frustrating and so annoying. I keep getting it wrong and I don't like it. And so she just decided like, this is not for me. And she went and got like a degree, like a graduate degree from an Ivy League school. Um, so the LSAT really, really is not about how smart you are. It's just about like how persistent you are, how much frustration can you deal with, um, and are you going to go out and like find explanations? I think that's probably the biggest key. And I saw, hi Ray. Um, One of the things that I think is really important with the LSAT is just remembering, is knowing that um, it's learnable. You just have to go out and learn it. So what that means is you just have to find explanations that make sense to you. If I make sense to you and like my profile makes sense to you, awesome. If Power Score makes sense to you, if LSAT Demon makes sense to you, awesome. If you signed up for a resource that does not make sense to you and it's making you feel stupid, ditch that resource. Um, don't stick with something that's like not working and like making you more frustrated. So like I always recommend Power Score. I love Power Score, but someone in the chat was like, I tried Power Score and made no sense to me. Totally valid, and I'm really happy that person ditched it. You really want to find something that makes sense to you, and that can be hard sometimes because it's hard to find one place that has all of the answers that you want. You're gonna have to piece it all together, and you're probably already learning that. And if you are just starting to think about studying for the LSAT, then this is probably good for you to be hearing too, just thinking about how to prepare for studying. Because it's going to be impossible to find, well, maybe not impossible, but it'd be pretty tough to find all the explanations that make sense to you in one place. So if you don't have a tutor, which I didn't have a tutor when I was studying, I used Power Score, and that worked great for me. I just opened up the book, started from page 1, had a blank notebook, took notes all the way for each chapter, did every single drill. But there were definitely still times where I was confused. And that's when I would just start Googling, and like I'd find myself on like the 10th page of a Google search or like in some random Reddit thread, like searching really specific things in quotation marks, trying just to find an explanation that makes sense to me. But I always would find it. I'd always figured it out. Some people, it's not worth doing that. Like my friend, she would never want, I think like, I could think of 100 million things that she would rather do than that. But for me, it was worth it to figure it out. And if you have a tutor, because when I'm with my students, sometimes I'll explain something and I'll have to explain it, and I'll explain it and they'll look at me and then be stubborn and be like, no, I'm still right. And try to come up with a way to argue. And so sometimes I'll go through like 4 or 5 explanations of why their answer choice was wrong, until I get to one where they finally get it and they're like, oh, that's why that was wrong. That's what you were saying. So if you have a tutor, that's great. Like the tutor brings all those explanations to you. If you don't have a tutor, then it just becomes your job to go out and find all those explanations. But if you're listening to some rando like me ramble about the LSAT, then you're already like interested enough to go out and find the explanations. And I think it's really important to think of it that way, because that is exactly how law school is and exactly how practicing the law is. In law school, you do not learn everything you need from your professors. I can't even name all the websites that like we have subscriptions to, but like, I don't know, there's like YouTube channels that like everyone knows the guy's name from like all the law schools because he teaches this one class like on YouTube. You have to go out and find those examples. Like your law school will give you a huge like list of secondary resources that are to help you that you'll need other than like your textbook. So digging around for explanations is 100% like going to be part of your forever experience if you're doing the LSAT. And then as a lawyer, like, yeah, the laws are all going to change. So you're going to have to research them. Like this summer, I was constantly researching things in different states and having to learn. So being a lawyer is definitely being like a lifelong learner. So if you just see the LSAT as like a challenge and it's interesting enough to be listening, again, to me ramble about it, then you're going to do just fine. And I always tell my students too, like, all of the frustration is worth it. And if this is helpful, thank you for the likes. I see some likes. And make sure you send heart me gifts so you get access to the Discord. I just set up the Discord, and I'm gonna start doing like super fan lives where like we are actually like sit down for an hour and I won't get distracted by chat, and we'll go over a test section. So make sure you send heart me so you can join the fan club and get access to all that. One of the other things with the LSAT is remembering that it is built to be difficult. Like, they've done research and it actually shows us studying for the LSAT. Oh my god, I'm at 2.4. I'm at 2.4K likes. Thanks, guys. They've done studies that show that studying for the LSAT changes your brain structure in a good way. But so like if you feel mentally drained or you're feeling like this is really hard or frustrating or whatever your feels are, all of that's completely valid because you're literally changing like the pathways in your brain. And I always remind students that the LSAT, the questions on the LSAT, the stimuli on the LSAT, the passages, it's not like those are just passages that grew out in the wild that happen to be confusing. These are all questions that the LSAT writers wrote to F with you. And you just have to remember that. So if it feels hard, like it's not, and like you're feeling like, why don't I understand this? Like these sentences are too long. Yeah, they're literally like crafted to be like that. Like this isn't a mistake that it's confusing. Like I have so much fun coming up with like evilly difficult examples with my students. And once you like learn the patterns on the LSAT, it's not that hard. But I know how to make things confusing. And the LSAT writers do too. And so just know that like this isn't like the way things are written on the LSAT that's not even the way things are written in law school. I mean, sometimes it is, but rarely. It's written that way to mess with you. So if you're feeling messed with, yeah, like you are being messed with. And so you just have to figure out the ways to beat them at their own game. Thanks so much for the likes, guys. I actually want to, one other thing I want to start doing is if I start taking students, don't know what I'm doing with my life yet because I love tutoring, but just don't have much time for one-on-one. But I actually have a student that I'm meeting with after I get off of here later tonight, and I have to grade her practice exam. And I think it would be fun to grade it, fun, quotation marks, fun, to grade it with you guys. So that's another thing that I want to do for like on the Discord or for super fans is just like grading like my students' tests. So definitely make sure you send heart me's. I'm going to keep reminding so you can get access to the Discord and then you can know when I do super fan stuff. And I have a channel in the Discord like where you can ask me questions and I'll answer like throughout the day. So I think that is worth, I don't actually know what a heart me is, but I think it's worth a heart me. Yeah, especially if you're taking like if you're taking the test coming up or the February test. And let me know if you guys have any questions about the example I have on the screen. I think it's really, oh, hi, Tarika. I think it's really common to like think of questions separately. Like weaken questions are like completely separate from strengthen questions, which are completely separate from flaw questions. And like they are obviously like all different. But I kind of like this example I made because I wanted to show like how just recognizing the pattern helps. Um, and if you look at the answer choices, like the weak and strengthen flaw answer choices I gave, um, I chose them because I feel like they might seem kind of random. Because, like, so if the stimulus says cities with bike lanes have fewer traffic accidents, so the bike lanes must have caused a decrease in traffic accidents. Um, for the weekend example, like saying those cities also invested heavily in traffic enforcement and driver education, I can hear like students in my head reading that answer choice and being like, how why would that impact it? Like, how am I supposed to know that would impact the conclusion? It's not they don't even talk about traffic enforcement and driver education. I can like hear my students saying that. And so I like the way I teach is I like to show the patterns. And if you recognize a cause and effect pattern, one way to weaken it is to bring in another cause. Once you know that, then it feels a little less random. And you know, like, oh, this is saying that something caused something. Well, I know that here's the ways you can handle a cause and effect argument. You can strengthen it by ruling out other causes. And that's where the strengthen one is. And I can hear, again, I can like hear my students in my head reading that strengthen answer choice and being like, how does that strengthen it? Like how that like what does that have to do with anything? And once you recognize that what it's doing is it's ruling out any other possible causes, and that's one way the LSAT strengthens cause and effect, then it becomes a little less random. So keep this one just in the back of your pocket. When you're seeing cause and effect, even before you know whether you're like strengthening or weakening, or if you're just describing what the flaw is, just remember that the LSAT, these are the problems the LSAT will pick out with cause and effect. Another one I don't have on here is sometimes they'll say maybe they're switched. So I probably should add that on here. But like assumes a cause is the effect instead of assuming that the effect is the cause or something like that. Mixing up the cause and effect is another way that this flaw is described. But yeah, so I think this is a good example of showing how weaken and strengthen can both bring in like new ideas. But it's not just any new idea. It's one that's going to impact the conclusion. And and the answer choices are always going to be either weakening or strengthening the reasoning. And on the flaw for the first answer choice, where it says the argument mistakes a correlation for a causal relationship, so many of my students like read that first as casual. So if you aren't used to that word yet, you definitely want to get used to it because it'll show up on the LSAT and it just means like cause and effect relationship. But even when I first saw it, because I didn't know that word before I took the LSAT. I thought it was casual too. And definitely let me know if there's any specific question types you would want to go over. Either probably next live, or any ones that you want to see me do posts on. I think what I'll probably start doing is like maybe like super fan lives where we are going over a specific test section. Um, and that'll be just like closed off because when we're live and we're open to everybody, like my ADHD gets me and I like get distracted by chat. So it's really hard for me to go through questions. But if we have a scheduled study session, then like I can be in full tutor mode and not worry about chat, and I mean like random chat, and can just use chat to answer questions. So make sure you send a heart me so you can get access to the Discord and like know when I'm gonna do the super fan lives. Shauna, hi Shauna, must be true. Okay, I will get on that. Make sure you check out my profile for must be true tips. But must be true flaw questions. Flaw questions are hard, and flaw questions, um, if you're struggling with them, I definitely would go back and or I would continue reviewing and like reading about the flaws so that just like seeing more examples of them, because there's so many of them. But um, if you spend time on flaws, it really will help make the rest of the test make sense. So flaws are really tough, but they do help. Um, do more drills. Yes, definitely doing more drills is super helpful. And I love drills, um, because sometimes you just don't, sometimes you're burnt out on doing sections. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing a full question, but that doesn't mean that you can't get practice in. You can practice all the same like LSAT muscles without doing a full LSAT question. So I love drills. That's one of the reasons I like Power Score because they have a lot of drills. Hi, Inherskin. Um, Hi, Bella. Can I do strengthen? Yes, I will do a strengthen post because I know you asked me about weaken and strengthen. And one thing, and I'll explain this one, Bella. Um, but because I remembered you had asked me about weaken and strengthen during maybe the last live or the one before that. So I came up with this example, but I wanted to show this one because I think the answer choices that I wrote for weaken and strengthen, it might seem kind of random. Like it might just seem like it's new information. But if you notice what the pattern is in the stimulus, that can help you with the weaken and strengthen questions. So for example, like this stimulus I wrote says that like cities with bike lanes have fewer traffic accidents. And the conclusion is the bike lanes must have caused the decrease in traffic accidents. So I know that's a cause and effect argument right there. They're saying the bike lanes are the cause and the effect is a decrease in traffic accidents. So on the LSAT, cause and effect relationships are handled a few different ways. If you want to weaken it, you want to introduce another cause. So one common way that LSAT will weaken cause and effect is by introducing another cause. So in my example here, I said these cities also invested heavily in traffic enforcement and driver education. That introduces another possible cause of the decrease in traffic accidents. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't mean that the bike lanes didn't cause, but it does weaken it. It makes you question it a little bit. Is it all just because of the bike lanes, or could it be because of traffic enforcement and driver education? So the weaken, it doesn't like completely destroy the argument. It doesn't need to do that. It just needs to make you question it. And with cause and effect, one of the ways that LSAT makes you question it is by suggesting another cause. And so the flip side of that is in my strengthen here, where I say there were no other changes made to traffic patterns or road safety. This strengthens it because Now we are ruling out any other causes. So if you have a cause and effect, one way to weaken cause and effect is by introducing another cause. One way to then, and it makes sense that strengthening it, one way to strengthen it would be to protect it from other causes. And that's what the strengthen choice does. And this is very, 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 very common on the LSAT. This type of strengthen and this type of weaken. Saying there are no other changes, it doesn't make it 100% for sure that it was the bike lanes that made the cause, but it does make it a little bit more likely. It protects it a little bit from an argument. No one could come to you and say, well, what about the traffic patterns and road safety? Because if we can tell them, no, there were no other changes made, then then that person has to think maybe it was the bike lanes. So for cause and effect, you can strengthen it by ruling out any other possible causes. And so that can be like new information, just like what I wrote there, like adding in traffic patterns and road safety. But what the LSAT wants you to recognize is that it's not the newness of the information, but rather it's the fact that it's introducing another cause. And then the way that shows up, if it's a flaw question, those are just a few different ways that they can describe it. The causal relationship shows up a lot. Saying it assumes because two phenomena occur together, one caused the other. The two phenomena, which just means like two events or two trends. Yeah, that's probably better. Well, two trends. The two phenomena here are having more bike lanes and then having fewer accidents. And then the last one where it says it fails to rule out alternative explanations. That's another classic way to describe this type of flaw. And reverse causation. Just like we were talking about, maybe you can introduce a different cause. If an answer choice suggests the relationship is flipped, like maybe the effect is really the cause, then that is a way to weaken the relationship too. And definitely hit like and let me know if this was helpful. I came up with some more examples like these for necessary and sufficient, and maybe I'll do them for a lot of different question types. But I think once you hear this, I think you guys will remember this, and I think it'll stick with you. And I hope that it helps because I don't even remember. I think it must have been Power Score. I don't know where. I don't remember where I learned this exact pattern, but I remember that once I did, it just stood out to me. Like as soon as I started studying, I was like, oh, I'm seeing this everywhere. So I really hope that this is looking at cause and effect this way is really helpful. And I'm focusing a lot on the cause and effect aspect of it, but also the important part of this is just because these two things are happening, they're correlated, meaning they're both going up, or well, they have a relationship, they go up or down together. That doesn't necessarily mean that they cause each other. And let me know if you are taking the January LSAT or thinking about taking the LSAT. And if you have any law school questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And let me know if you have any questions about this example. I've been getting a lot of questions about weaken and strengthen, so I thought this would be a good example to show. But okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Um, I actually have a student after this. But I'm gonna hop off of here. I might hop back on later. Um, but make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you send a heart me so you can join the fan club. So then you can get access to the Discord. Um, and then when I do test reviews, like when I act, you'll know when I like you'll be ready with Law Hub and you can pull it up and go along with me. But if you have any um, questions or um, suggestions, feel free to DM me or leave me a comment. Hi, Shauna. Taking it on the 9th. I got a 150 November, wanting a 160. You got a 160. I'm not even worried about you, Shauna. Um, that's amazing. And really, really good job with sticking with it and taking it again. I know it's not fun. Yeah, the 9th is so soon. Oh my gosh. You're going to be so happy when the weekend is over. Yeah, good luck, Shauna. I'm sending you all my good vibes. Um, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm going back through your questions, the chat, and making sure I caught everything. I think I did. Oh, Rogue Gentleman, you said you were doing Princeton and Kaplan. Um, oh, you'll have to let me know what you think about Kaplan. I know you said you're just starting it this week. But I always want to hear what, because I'm always passing along what other people are saying they like. Um, okay, guys, you are doing awesome. Again, make sure you. Oh, thank you, in her skin. Make sure you. I'm so lame. Make sure you do whatever you need to do to join the fan club. I don't know what that is. Pretty sure to send me a heart me. Oh, hi, Nasser. I'm so sorry that I'm just jumping off, but I've been doing a good job of uploading my lives to my YouTube. So if you, my YouTube is just LSAT machine. I only have like 12 subscribers, so go subscribe to me. But there's a lot of my lives over there, and I've been uploading them as soon as I finish, basically. So go over there if you, I don't know, want someone to study with. And I have like actual LSAT questions, not just drills. Um, yeah. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Oh, yay. Okay, awesome. Again, make sure you. Thank you, Rogue Gentleman. Okay, yay, Shauna. Yeah, I need more subscribers. Okay, thank you so much, you guys. I might hop back on after my session. We'll see. I might be all set it out. We'll see. But I definitely will make sure I hop on tomorrow. So make sure you have your notifications turned on for that. But until then, make sure you relax, even though while you're studying, and take it easy. And I will see you tomorrow. And good luck studying. And make sure you have a good rest of your night, guys. Thanks so much for the likes. Bye.